Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Dude, there he is. Babylon is falling all around us. Let's put up a rare romantic Pepe that I just made earlier. There you go. Dude, someone said that this is the kind of thing that would have gotten them in trouble during the NFT craze. You know what I mean? Sweet. So how many AR-15s did Jesus own? Asked David Hogg, DNC chair. Britton Wolf says, not enough to avoid being murdered by his government.
He chose to be murdered by the government. Angels could have come down at any moment and saved him. And angels are way more destructive than AR-15s.
Also, I think that Jesus probably would have had like a Galil Ace. Probably that would have been more region appropriate.
Sure. If you didn't buy your Yeezy swastika t-shirt, it's too late. They've now shut down Yeezy.com. You cannot buy your swastika t-shirts. You missed your opportunity. What can I say?
It's the new Bitcoin. You know how much these are going for now?
It's rare, bro. I don't know.
It was a missed opportunity for him to just keep on running with the Raelian thing.
Yeah.
Like he had to go full swastika. It's like, dude, why didn't you just share the Raelian symbol and just make people look it up?
Double down on that. Exactly. Yeah. Well, because Adolf Hitler, I don't know. It's the Adolf. That's the. It's just too much of a. It's just I don't know. I mean, where's the meme? Hitler seeing that his biggest fans in 2025 are a bipolar black rapper, Nick Fuentes. No, and then Nick Fuentes, a gay Mexican virgin. You know, that's kind of where we're at. Are you crying?
Is he a virgin? Does anal not count with men? I thought that what happened with him in Destiny totally counted. Is that
I thought it doesn't count if you use the other hole. I thought that was the whole.
Oh,
hole.
right. It's God's loophole. I forgot about that
loophole.
One. Right. So even if it's with Destiny, it's still God's loophole.
In the name of Jesus. Yeah, you've heard that song.
The old loophole.
Rip Manny Bothan, who died in suspicious circumstances shortly before the Battle of Endor. I feel bad for Manny Bothan. Manny Bothan, man, who died so that we could find out the secret to the Death Star. Okay, how about the nuclear quantum teleportation thing? Do you guys see this one? Oxford scientists achieve quantum data teleportation milestone. Breakthrough in quantum data teleportation has been achieved. Scientists at the University of Oxford have successfully transmitted data between quantum computers, addressing one of the key challenges posed by the development of this technology. Experts suggest that the milestone could revolutionize the technology sector. This is supposed to be data, quantum, teleportation. So maybe even something you could use to send information from one space to another space or one time to another time. They want to use it. I mean, this is what that whole idea of if you could send data from a computer in the future back to a computer in the past, could you build a new machine? Could you take that information and build a machine in the past that could communicate with the machine in the future? And could we be sending information to the past already through quantum computers that have been set up in 2030 or 2045 back in the 1800s?
Okay, so with data, you don't have to worry about a fly getting in the mix and like coming out the like just messing with the whole thing, right? That's not an issue.
Literally, that's why they call computer bugs though, right? Because there were moths stuck in the tubes, so there could be something about that. Nuclear flies.
Is that really why they call it that? It doesn't have any. I thought it was a viral type of thing, like virus type of thing, a bug. I got
Yeah, that's the first computer bug. Let me show you a picture of the first computer bug. Here it is. Here she is. Oh, come on, load, baby, load. This is it. Oh, there it is, right there. There's the first computer bug ever found.
Oh, see, it's a moth.
It's taped right there. Yeah, it was in relay panel 70, panel F, and the moth in the relay. The first actual case of a bug found.
I like how it's just taped directly to the incident report. When I was younger, this actually reminds me. My dad was working for the post office, and he was deathly allergic to wasps and ants. He gets in like anaphylactic shock, and he got stung by a wasp on a route, and he had to call in, and they made him sign all these papers, and it was like describe, what was the situation that required you, and he just had the wasp, and he just taped the wasp directly to the form and turned it in.
There you go. That's legit.
That's nice. Yeah. I mean, so like computer bugs used to be real bugs. So I could easily imagine the fly, but
all right, gotcha. Okay.
The quantum computer thing seems interesting to me because the whole point here is this idea that very soon, I think we talked about this a couple times, that Bitcoin could be crackable with a quantum computer. And, we might see that pretty commonly by 2030, 2040, but even now, it's starting to sound like they have computers that could just about do it. They might not be able to run for long enough to stay running, but so quickly do they run that they can break all of the codes we have, and this would collapse our economy. But if we could wait until, they're saying by 2030, even 2035, Bitcoin's going to be $1 million a coin or something. And if that's the case, then that's the perfect time to collapse the economy and have a 2029 banking crisis, right? Because what do you think? You feel like we're headed towards some sort of a planned?
So who's going to bail us out if we don't have a JP Morgan? Who fills the JP Morgan shoes? Is that just Elon Musk? Is he the one that comes in?
It's Elon Musk, Putin, and China, right? Like they're all working to
Putin comes in and helps get us out of trouble.
Putin has like a huge amount of Bitcoin, but they're also using it so they can own resources. China and Putin have both invested into controlling the future economy. And is it going to be the BRIC ruble or the petrodollar or the Chinese yuan? Probably not. I mean, if you think about it, the dollar today is worth what? $100 is worth $3 from 1910 or 1911 or something like that. It was like $3 would have been $100 buying power today. So how would we get back to a strong dollar? Some people say there's no point in getting back to a strong dollar. But if we were to do that and we're to slowly bring it down so that we had a currency with the buying power of $1 in 1913 or 1890s or something like that, Bitcoin is the contender to be this new strong currency that isn't traded as much except for by the elite. And then we have the Banana Republic company town money that we get to use, our little monopoly money. And that's what the dollar is going to be for if we're not careful. But
what would Ron Paul want? What is Ron Paul's views on Bitcoin? I don't even know what they are. I mean, I know he's old and maybe some might consider him irrelevant, but what is, do you know what his positions are on Bitcoin? I'm curious.
Ron Paul champions liberty in competing currencies at BitCon 2024. Ron Paul, former U.S. Congressman, advocate for liberty, shared his thoughts on Bitcoin and monetary policy during an interview with Bitcoin Magazine editor Pete Rizzo. Paul emphasized the importance of liberty and the sound money principles while expressing cautious optimism about Bitcoin's future. Freedom advocate Ron Paul pushes for sound money principles. I believe in competing currencies and reining in the federal monopoly. He also talks about the problem with, Ponzi schemes, and you got to be careful with an economy that can only be controlled by the military-industrial complex. Because Bitcoin is something that the challenge is better computing technology. And they have that. They just don't have a reason to sell it to you. They're just trying to figure out, because of all the other things they have sold to you, how to keep, building a moat around their intellectual reserve.
He must be thrilled right now. I mean, Ron Paul, because of the audit stuff all over the place. Like,
you heard that they're trying to hire him to do it, right?
I saw that, but I mean, how old is Ron Paul at this point? He's got to be in his 80s, right? I mean, maybe, it's just for a job, I don't know, but I think Ron Paul is
1935. Whoa, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is what he's asked for so many years, apparently, supposedly. With what we may be looking at in terms of like mass audits, including
nearly
the Fed.
90.
Yeah, nearly 90. Yeah.
89.
But I mean, he looks sharp. He looks healthy. He looks way more on it than Biden did, and Biden wasn't nearly as old. So I don't know.
Do you think Biden was just faking it? Like, the more I think about it, the more it's like Bush faked being stupid. Why didn't Biden just fake being slow and lazy?
I think at one point I had you guys watch that video of like where it's the Scary Movie ending that was a play on The Usual Suspects, where it's like Doofy walking away, but it's like Biden the whole time, like, or like that whole like behind the scenes, like, was Biden just totally like, it's just he really was sharp as a tack. He's just playing a part,
Our buddy Ronan just bought himself a Yeezy swastika t-shirt before it was too late. Good job, Ronan. You're going to be remembered.
So just to be clear, I mean, our listeners probably all know this, but my understanding is that there was a lot of things on that site. He advertised a short advertisement on the Super Bowl, and at the same time just took down everything else from the site except for that shirt. So he wanted to highlight that above all else. And so, anyway, here's the missed opportunity. He should have gone with the Raelian symbol.
I mean, because I would have bought a Raelian shirt. I probably still will. I might still do it.
I would have bought that. I would never buy a swastika shirt, but I could buy this. This is something.
I have a few. I have a few swastika shirts. I have the Spiritual Punks Donut swastika shirt. Let me see if I can find this one. My buddy Stinjan. This is he makes some shirt. Where's the donut one? Here we go. I have this one. If this offends you, you need a history lesson. And it's got this cute sprinkly swazi. All of your bait. It's a historical. It's a great place. If you go to a Starbucks wearing this shirt, they're going to be like, seriously? And then I say, yeah, seriously. Because I don't really go to Starbucks.
Let's have a conversation. This is good because it's a conversation starter. You get to educate people. You're like, oh, you want to talk about the history of whatever. Yeah.
Wouldn't these be better at Dunkin' Donuts versus Starbucks?
Probably. That actually makes the most sense. But I think no one would be offended at a Dunkin' Donuts because that's like,
hell yeah, brother.
Yes. Oh my God. I don't know. I think it's really sort of funny though, because I've been saying for a long time that they're going to keep saying people are Nazis who aren't until people are like, I don't care anymore what you call me, or worse, fine, if that's what we're called, we'll start identifying as that. And then you're going to have a bunch of people that call themselves Nazis, and they're going to start out by being the least related to it's going to be Kanye West saying I feel like we predicted this. Like, of course, now his whole goal is to socially normalize Nazism, and we have the DNC is anti-Zion right now because the Zionists are financing the Republicans and Trump. So you've got the kind of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, CIA money for the DNC, and they're all pro-Palestine and pro-Arab front. So what are we doing? We're definitely. It feels like they're pushing for people to identify as Nazis, not as like German people in the 30s, but as American Hollywood movie Hogan's Heroes Nazis, right? Like literally just like to play the Star Wars villains, right?
Well, it's turning into that Pink Floyd line of "Haven't you heard? It's a battle of words." It's good. Like, and if you use a term like fascism and the way that people are just throwing it around, what's the rule? What is it? Godwin? What is the rule? Law. Thank you. Yeah, like I'm like, this is it's a constant occurrence now, like of where it's the go-to for everything for all sides, and even like the Jews are being called Nazis now. I don't know where once you go to a certain level with that, where's the meaning in the term? It's like, at one point I remember Andreas kind of like, what is it? It didn't take that much to make like the "have a nice day" smiley face into a hate symbol. Like anything can become
about 6 months.
About 6 months, yeah. Like, yeah.
I mean, this is at least a couple, almost 3 decades old, because Norman Finkelstein came out with the Holocaust Industry book in the year 2000, and he was called a Nazi almost immediately. So maybe he was just ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
he's a quantum Nazi.
but it starts the fire line. Yeah, I think that's the other thing, is doing this swastika shirt at Super Bowl is now a historic. It's like kind of funny to say that, but it's like a school shooting, or it's like a dent in the timeline forever. Like everyone forever, you'll remember, though people will write about it. It'll probably be in a school book somewhere that this dude sold swastikas at the American Super Bowl, right? Like that seems like a major timeline event somehow to that it affects so many people, like a general timeline event.
It just felt like the whole, like his meltdown recently, or whatever you want to call it, on Twitter, in the all caps, tweet after tweet after tweet. Like he was like just constantly tweeting for like, what was it, 3 days or something? Yeah, it was like back thanking Elon Musk for allowing his fuckery or whatever. And and
then he got kicked off.
It was, but it was so, I guess, but yeah, it was just so funny. Like the things that were said, like, I think a lot of people.
Women run the Jews. That was pretty good. Like it's the women.
It was so all over the place. It just felt like whatever meaning somebody could be ascribing to it. Like there was no.
It was like Red Bull. It was like a Red Bull weekend. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. I don't know what was happening there. I don't know if he was on something.
I think that maybe since he got kicked out of Adidas and he's been kind of like distancing himself from Balenciaga. But he could go for Hugo Boss, right? Like maybe he's just trying to inch his way into another sort of fashion space.
Well, what exactly? Because what happened? So I don't know his wife's name. Do you guys know his wife's name?
Bianca Sensory.
Yeah,
Sensory. Right. So what happened? You got it. So Bill talks about this. So she was naked, right? And we saw black strips like censoring her. So she was literally censored for her naked body. Okay, like what is the classic, the emperor wears no clothes, like, and then we're like looking at him next to her and she's naked and people were losing their minds about a naked body. Like historically, like look at how Fox started with the Star, right? Like what, the magazine newspaper, the Star, which was Rupert Murdoch's first big newspaper investment. And they would put a naked woman on the front of every page of every issue as some kind of statement to say, hey, because we can show you this, just a simple topless woman, we can say anything we want to, was the idea. So now when you're looking at Twitter, like porn is perfectly okay on Twitter. It pretty much always has been for the most part, and so Twitter like filled the role of what Rupert Murdoch was pretending the Star was. You got to understand, like, I'm sure a lot of people do, like the history of the Star was that they weren't selling papers initially. They were not a big publication. That changed over one day, over one article, because they were like completely sensationalized something. They knew it was fake and they didn't care. And this is before National Enquirer existed. This is before the World News, whatever,
And before Bat Boy?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it wasn't presented as satire because people had known it previously as, oh, this is a legitimate publication.
Bat Boy only started in 1992. The Star is like mid 80s, right?
Right. That sounds right. And so, and then looking at the timing, you're like, okay, well, what was Hustler? Because we all know Hustler had the best articles of any magazine in existence, basically. Like
1974 is when he bought it or founded it, I guess.
Right. Hustler had better journalism than anything. It also had the most outrageous porn. And the idea was, look, if we can show you this, then we can, you can trust us to not compromise information. And so I think that was the idea with Twitter, and that would make sense of why the Mr. Rail from Raelianism, why he would approve of Twitter in the way that he does, because nudity is connected, like to bear it all, like to bear the truth, to bear your own naked body. So it's interesting that like Kanye comes back into the public eye, but like with his wife naked, and they had to censor her, what was her last name again?
Sensory.
Yeah, no, it's kind of sinky, right? Like,
yeah, it's good. I just read this though about the Star. So apparently he started in 74. He sold it in the 80s to the parent company of the National Enquirer, American Media Inc. And when they moved the headquarters to the same building as the Globe, National Examiner, and the Sun, and the National Enquirer, Phil told the New York Post, it's like having the Bosnians, Croats, and Jews and Arabs all together in the same area. About all of the different tabloid magazines being in the same building, which is a weird metaphor in a lot of ways. Very specific.
Interesting.
Well, who were the Jews in that analogy?
Probably the Star, right? Because Murdoch.
Murdoch.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who was at the game, by the way? Well, it was on Fox, so that makes sense. But they did take a moment to be like, and here's Rupert Murdoch. And
Trump says he's friends and he likes Murdoch. He talks about it. He's like, oh, what a wonderful guy, this Murdoch. He does such amazing things, you know?
Right. I'm pretty sure, allegedly, Murdoch, there's countries he can't set foot in because I believe specifically because of money laundering. So might want to fact check me on that, but I believe that there's areas of the world that he cannot go near. But you know, I mean,
he's old and comfortable.
What we're looking at now is like this could be a full-on reckoning for a lot of the people, because everyone always says, you know, they're like, and we just think donors, right? Of like, how is it that these people who are supposed to have these low salaries as public servants in Congress, etc., how is it that they end up these multi millionaires so, you know, so quickly? And you know, like we all would love to know Pelosi's portfolio, you know, before, like I would love to take stock advice from Pelosi. Like I don't do.
There's a thing I would if
I was getting it from her, you know.
I just saw that, and there's a Pelosi Android app that helps you track her investments. I think it's Investment Autopilot that tracks the politicians' investments, and you can use this to literally get the same stocks that she's particularly Warren Buffett, Nancy Pelosi, whatever. Autopilot just buys stock that they're buying.
Right. So it's kind
sells
of weird,
when they
like,
do.
Looking at the you know, the secretary, the press secretary right now. She's like 27 years old. I forget her name, but she's
Caroline Levitt
or no?
Yeah, thank you. You said it. Yeah. So you know, she's when
not Caroline Levitt. Which one are you talking about?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah. She's super hot, and she's married to some dude who's like 20 years older than her.
So USAID comes up, right? And she in a press briefing, she's only talking about like the weird stuff that they're doing, like not that some of it not that weird. You're like Sesame Street in Iraq, okay? Like it seems really random. Like
it makes a lot of sense for the CIA to buy puppets in other countries. That's not unusual.
Right. Good one. But you know, she's the things that she's talking about with them, like that is not just the tip of the iceberg. It's not like it's interesting that she's not jumping at that they are a known CIA front. And you can go historically, like we were talking about last week, of all the examples in Bolivia and Chile, all these places.
I think it's because the CIA is a front now too. It's all become
in the first place. Yeah. So, but I mean that's one example, but they're all like the amount of money that's going towards like Congress people, like for the like the role that USAID is playing, like in the way that we've treated that. It's like these things have these really earnest names, and you're like, oh, this is about aid. You don't want to stop aid, and you're like, you know, and then you look.
War is peace. Yeah.
Right. So it's like that's how this always works. Like you don't have a storefront. You know, you don't have a store be a front for some shady thing and like call it the shady thing. Like you have it.
That's a good name for a store, though. Actually, you know.
Right. I mean, this is why I was saying before, like if you're gonna hijack or infiltrate an organization, you want to go after the one that has the best, the most dignified association.
Yeah. Kennedy started USAID. Kennedy started USAID because he wanted an alternative to the CIA, which was being around him. And he was like, "No,
John F. Kennedy started.
John F. Kennedy in the '60s, in '61, I think." And so he was worried about the CIA with Cuba, and he's like, we need something else. We need something that doesn't go in and just make exploding cigars. We should create an agency that fosters American interests in other countries and creates trade and helps democracies, right? And something that helps make partnerships with nations that could become state friends, state allies in the future. And, there's a lot of countries in the 60s that were up and coming. There were startup companies kind of basically to America, and they're like, okay, well, Chile is a great example. And so they kill Kennedy, LBJ takes over, Bush is in charge with all the money that's going into there. And what's the first thing that they do? Well, they murder Allende in Chile, and then they install helicopter swinging Pinochet, which is interesting, but it's like, this is not what Kennedy probably would have done. He was more into social
no. It's like the people who rioted after Martin Luther King died, on his behalf. You're like, oh no, this is for King. Okay.
Yeah, and there's this movie Volunteers with Tom Hanks, if you remember, and it's like he goes and joins the Peace Corps, and I remember thinking as a kid, like, this is funny, but my mom and my dad were like, this is real. This is basically what my mom went through waltzing with Alfredo Stroessner in Paraguay before his dictatorship was couped. You bring in some nice college kids, and instead of dropping bombs, you drop college kids with frisbees and hula hoops and Coca-Cola bottles, which is an ultimate distraction. And then they know what's going on by day, and then the CIA can pour in by night. And that whole movie Volunteers is about they're building a bridge to help these people. But really, the CIA wants them doing that so they can smuggle heroin and build a runway, right? And that's exactly what they do.
It's a play on the bridge of River Kwai, right? Like looking at because to me when I was a kid, I was like, oh, Bridge of River Kwai is so boring. This is a satire on it. It wasn't until I was older that I realized, because it's Tom Hanks and John Candy, right? So you're watching a comedy that is talking about something that's also on a similar vein, Gung Ho, actually, with Michael Keaton. Similar kind of deal where you have this comedy built around something that's like, this is a real issue, and we're just going over the top with it in this other kind of way. It's like they can get away with it if they make it comedy, which I think Elon Musk is doing quite a bit too. That same kind of thing where you're like, I want to talk about something super serious, but I'm going to change my name to Harry Balls, and I'm going to get them to address the serious thing that I'm saying on news media by being forced to say Harry Balls. Like that type of trolling. Like even though a lot of those comedies historically, like all through the 80s, like they were their own kind of form of that. They were like, because you had comedy writers who were like, oh, I see this social issue and I want to bring it to light. Let's make a joke. The Beatles did that. Like if you watch the documentary, like Get Back, and like they're at the time their own views on immigration stuff, and you can see the humor that's playing into all of the lyrical content, but they want to address the thing, but if they say it in a serious way, they'll get ostracized by the powers that be. But they can get away with it if they make it into kind of, incorporated into a joke that people will actually laugh at,
I don't know. I mean, like John Lennon in a bathtub playing with U-boats, speaking Nazi German was, the subtext was there. What do you think, though? The big balls. You bring up big balls. I mean, how cool is
I
Big
brought
Balls?
up Harry Balls. He changed his name to Harry Balls.
Yeah.
I think this was yesterday. I don't know.
Well, because Big Balls is the kid who got in trouble. The U.S. government. This 19-year-old kid, Edward Corriston, and he, they're like, who is this hacker who's working for the online DOGE department? And his username when he was 16 was Big Balls. And this was just crazy. They're like, how could we let someone who's called Big Balls go through our government and point out all of the impropriety and illicit embezzlement, right? Like, like this is so he calls himself Harry Balls, but
yeah.
Did you already show? Did I show you the video already of the kid who found the scroll, right? Who's doing the DOGE department thing?
No, I don't think so. What do you got?
Oh, I think I've shown it before, but I'm going to show it again just because I think it's really interesting. So my mom is freaking out and she's like, "Oh my God, they're raiding the department." I'm like, I thought you'd like to see where your tax dollars are going. Isn't that like your whole thing? And especially if they're murdering people, making bombs and killing people, or doing psyops. Like I figured you'd be interested in seeing that. Like, oh my God, they're going to destroy the Social Security. Like they're not destroying. Your people destroyed the Social Security. We're just trying to see what the damage is. We just want some photos of the reports. If we could just see where the money's been going, it's not the same.
They're lying all over the place because all you can look at. I'm sure you guys probably saw the Secretary of the Treasury, them explaining step by step how it is, what he actually has access to, and what he's actually able to do.
See, not to delete.
He's working as a consultant. Like this was always the agreement. He isn't able to step beyond that, even if he wanted to, really. So like as far as the actual decision making, he's able to find things that he may suspect are fraud. He doesn't even get to make the call if this is fraud or not. He can point his finger and say, hey, look at this, look at that. And it's not just him, but his whole team. And he's really excited about it. And it takes somebody with enthusiasm in that way to make these things happen. These are things that the Democrats have talked about for so many years that they wanted to do. And now we see them actually happening, and they're throwing a fit because they make so much money off of this stuff.
Obama judge demands Trump resume all paused funding. Judge John J. McConnell Jr. and we should be showing these people's faces. They should be forced into the public light. Has ordered Trump to resume all paused funding and restore withheld funds. If Trump wants to pause any federal funding, you will need to seek specific permissions from the Rhode Island judge. The judge also threatened criminal contempt for anyone caught violating this order. It's a good thing that the unitary executive theory gives the president and commander-in-chief the power to do freaking anything. Like, he's literally God Emperor. He can whatever he wants. He can make you stand on your head. He can write an executive order to do whatever he wants. This is a power that was created not by Trump. This is created by the neoliberals and neoconservatives. This is something that they used as early as the 60s, and Alexander Hamilton even kind of talked about this idea as well. This is where DOGE comes from. Do you guys know this? Where the DOGE was created by Obama? Have you heard that story yet?
So originally created by Obama. I saw your guy Ian Crossland steelmanned Doge, and he had a really great tweet that he kept changing over and over again to get it as accurate as he could be. But it checks out. So basically, you might have something that it goes beyond what he shared, but it goes further back, and it's weird because the acronym was different in the past.
United States Digital Services.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So Obama in 2014, August 11th, created the United States Digital Services, which was a technology unit that was designed to essentially look through everything, spy on everyone, find out where all the money is going. And basically, corruption oversight is the most ironic wording here, because it was overseeing the corruption is the best way to look at it. This was the thing. And essentially, it had gross outreach of power, you could say, because it could find out if you were doing something, if you weren't black or trans, and then get rid of you, right? So this was the KGB, this was the Gestapo of Obama. Obama's Gestapo was the USDS. And for Health and Human Services, COVID-19 vaccine finder tools were created, right? Yeah. Not just chatbots, but these are the things that could tell you on your phone if you had been vaccinated or not, and whether or not you were near people who had been vaccinated. This was crazy spying and removal of, self autonomy, and privacy, everything else. Department of Homeland Security, all of the things you were afraid of with the Patriot Act, and what was the one after the Patriot Act? There's another one even worse than the Patriot Act. Doesn't matter. The point is, DOGE comes in and he just basically takes the company, changes its name, changes its charter, and turns it into the DOGE department for the purpose of, using the same powers to look through everything. The U.S. Service Temporary Organization, officially, Department of Government officially, was a temporary organization until it took over another existing agency. So that's pretty cool. Right. And then here's the kid. So my mom's like, oh my God, these people, how did they do this? They have no right to this. You guys did it. We just changed the name and now it's actually functioning. And she's like, oh, but these kids, they don't know anything about anything. It's exactly. They're not, complicit with embezzlement since they're children. These are Nebraska Boy Scouts. Here's this one kid who we've talked about before, about a year ago. This came up. Because of some other reason. I remember celebrating this kid, Luke Ferrator, because he won this prize for the Global Vesuvius Challenge. And he did it using AI software. This was something that I think Thomas's mind was kind of blown too, if I recall.
So I've always been interested in history. Growing up, I learned Latin. I was never that good at it, but I was always kind of into that sort of stuff, read a lot about the Roman Empire and things. And one day I was just listening to a podcast back in March. It was with Nat Friedman. He just kind of got on the podcast, explained there are these burnt up scrolls that were buried in the Pompeii eruption. No one knows how to read them, But some professors have created CT scans of these scrolls, and they uploaded the data on the internet as a competition to see who could find writing inside of these scrolls. And when I heard that, I was just immediately like, oh my goodness, this is such a cool project. I have to work on this. I just went home from work that day at the end of the day, and I've been working on it evenings and weekends ever since. I run most of the things from my laptop. It's just a normal MacBook, don't worry.
I cannot confirm that he's Mormon, but he did. But he did say, "Oh my goodness."
Right.
I've got like 5 surplus computers in here. This is what I do most of my work from. The Rake School and just the University of Nebraska as a whole has provided a great educational background where I can then, take these skills that I've learned and apply them to problems like this. I just spend hours upon hours staring at flattened pieces of the scroll like this, trying to find these patterns, which are part of the writing. At the start of the challenge, we had not been able to find any writing at all within these scrolls. There are hundreds of these scrolls that are from the mansion. We've scanned a couple of them, and no one had been able to find any writing in them using these methods. Late one Saturday night, I was sitting at a party at a friend's house in Omaha, and I get a text from another person on the challenge team, and he says, "Hey, I've just uploaded this new kind of piece of the scroll. You should take a look at it." I remotely access my computer. I type into it like, "Please run the algorithm on this new piece of scroll." And then I just kind of start it. I pull out my phone again, just nonchalantly like, "Hey, I wonder how that went." And there are 3 Greek letters on the screen, letters I'd never seen before. It was really cool because it's like, oh my goodness, like we actually detected new writing in the scrolls using AI. That was the moment I realized like this is actually going to work. Like we're probably going to read the scrolls. And I completely freaked out. My friends were there and I was cheering, jumping up and down, screaming, crying, all the stuff. I, took a picture of the results and I sent them to my mom.
All right, am I wrong? Can you see the underline of his temple garments? Am I crazy? Like, is that what's going on here?
Called me and she's like, "Hey, these look great," It was a really
SpaceX shirt too, right?
This is
Yep.
Oh yeah, for sure the SpaceX shirt. But like, if you see, it looks like he's wearing underneath his shirt an undershirt, which the only people I know who do that, bro. Come on, ask Heidi.
Called me and she's like, "Hey, these look great," It was a really special moment.
Latter-day saintly behavior.
This is the word that I actually found. It's right here. It's the word prophoros, which translates to purple. It's the first word we found in the scrolls. It was reviewed by a committee of kind of Greek scholars, but it's the word purple. And I'm glad it's not the word in or the or and that we found first. We actually found a word that has meaning. This would not be possible without modern AI.
So you see that he found the word purple in a burnt charcoal piece of the Vesuvius scroll, a scroll that was literally, this is what it looks like, dog poop, bro. This is just pieces of charcoal, and they're rolled up, burnt pieces of charcoal, and they 3D scanned them, and line by line by line by line by line, he's able to figure out with AI that there are words written in this freaking scroll, bro.
This is the word that I actually found. It's right here. It's the word prophoros, which translates to purple. It's the first word we found in the scrolls. It was reviewed by a committee of kind of Greek scholars, but it's the word purple. And I'm glad it's not the word in or the or and that we found first. We actually found a word that has meaning. This would not be possible without modern AI and modern scanning techniques. People have wanted to read these books for hundreds of years, and this seems like the only way where it's really possible to do that. Now we're reading entire paragraphs from the scrolls, and hopefully we'll be able to read the entire book and read the hundreds of other books that were buried in this condition as well. When we found this first word, we went public with it, and I think everyone has been very pleasantly surprised by the amount of attention it's gotten. As a college student, it's definitely been overwhelming in the best way possible, but it's been really cool to get to kind of, talk about my findings and, share what I want to do in the future with so many people. So it's been overwhelming in the best possible way. The University of Nebraska does a really good job of encouraging their students to think boldly, and I think that's played a pivotal role in my work on this project.
All right, I'm just saying, dude, that's pretty based. And if like a Mormon kid can find the word purple in a burnt piece of the Vesuvius scroll, then he can probably find government corruption and embezzlement charges. You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's just like, if you didn't care at all, if you were just heartless and from New York, you'd be like, well, this is the guy I want to do the job because I need the job done. This guy will do the job. But if you're like a sap for Sweethearts and Lifetime movies and you see that kid, how are you not like, show that to your mother if your mother is against the Republican DOGE, whatever. Like they think that they're just like hack, no techno, big balls.
Your mom could get purple pilled, man. Any time now. She gets into Maha, she's going to be purple pilled. It could happen real quickly.
Ojalá.
What was the connection there to Big Balls?
So Big Balls is the name of. There's 4 guys in Doge that are kind of famous for being 19 to 22. This guy's 22, so he's like one of the older ones of the group. But the 19-year-old kid he's working with was deep. They scrubbed him on the internet, and they found out. Let's see, Vance, journalist, reward. Let me find the right. Okay, so they fired this kid because they said that when he was 16, his internet username account was Big Balls. And how could we be supporting somebody who was once called Big Balls? So if you think about it, the entire federal bureaucracy is being chased down by this kid who's like discovering embezzlement charges. And that's something that I've noticed a lot was like this week on Facebook, particularly, if I just scroll through my feed, I don't see any of my friends' posts. You know what I mean? All I see are anti-Kanye propaganda next to the word follow. So in other words, I'm not following any of the things I'm seeing in my list. It's all asking me if I want to follow.
They're wanting you to follow.
I follow 5,000. I got 4,000 friends. I don't see any of their posts. All I see are like ads for USA Today and Politico, and it's like that's ridiculous. But then I also see, and I've actually done a pretty good job. Upsetting them to the point and blocking them that I don't see them as much anymore. But yeah, here you go. Like Elizabeth Warren, follow Elizabeth Warren right here. See, like follow Elizabeth Warren. Like, well, if I'm not following Elizabeth Warren by now, what the friggin' hell do you think is going to make me start to follow her? You know what I mean? And like, all I can do is either like click, and everything is the same. Trump is this horrible guy. Elon Musk is, not elected. It's like ironic because none of these people are elected. I don't
remember electing. I'm sorry. This is, I know, such a stupid overused trope now, but it's so true. Like Bill Gates, Fauci, like, I mean, the people Soros, the people who we didn't elect, who are influencing and affecting our lives all through I'm like, how is this argument? And you can see the messaging. So they're using there's memos or whatever that went out, and you can see even like somebody like Cory Booker. I like a lot of things about Cory Booker, but it's really disappointing to see the messaging that's being used. They're using specific words. They're saying Trump is trying to overwhelm because they know this is so Bernaysian. They know that people feel overwhelmed. So they're like, what? How are people feeling? And you're like, who's the cause of this? And what is? And like, they're like,
so simple. Yeah, it's crazy.
I gotta say though that Elizabeth Warren is actually worth following when she posts from her Mima's Powwow Chow cookbook. It's got some pretty big bangers in there, actually.
Does it?
I don't block her yet because I still enjoy commenting. Like, if you turn yourself into Doge now, we'll let you get into a jail really close to your families. Like, I mean, that's the thing you got to say to these. It's interesting how the Congress people are pointing themselves out, though, because it's like
they're lying about what the function of Doge is. They're treating it like in the same way. There's like this whole thing. People reacting with USAID. They're saying they were investigating Starlink. How did USAID investigate anybody? That's not the type of organization they are. What the hell are they talking about? It's like they're going to make it work however they can. It's so weird, man.
There you go. Ever since the embezzlement scandal was exposed and the illicit finance ledgers made public, my feed has been flooded with promoted posts from the most corrupt, sold-out members of Congress, desperately drawing attention to themselves and their own crimes. That's basically what my week's been like on Facebook. Anyway, they told Big Balls he had to go, and then they were going to fire him because they're like, all right. But then they thought about it for a while, and they're like, I think he might have posted some like racy, at least, if not racist, racy memes in his teens, teen memes that melt steel beams kind of guy, and they were like, this guy's got to go. And they were like, all right, sure. But then they thought about like, wait, does he have to go? Aren't you guys all going? If you guys leave, can't he stay? That's basically what happened. And so Vance was like, Vice President Vance says, here's my view. I obviously disagree with some of LA's posts, but I don't think stupid social media activity should ruin a kid's life. We shouldn't reward journalists who try to destroy people. Ever. So I say bring him back. If he's a bad dude or a terrible member of the team, fire him for that. Yeah. And you know what happened? Elon Musk brings him back after X votes on it, hugely overwhelming support for the
What
kid.
is this?
And
What
then
is this? Disney with James Gunn? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You're like,
Yeah.
what is? Where's the? And what is greater crimes here? You're like,
Well, because the Democrats used to do that. They used to be able, because they had so much power and they were at least equal footing with the Republicans, so that everyone had to play kind of like, hey, no hands. He's got to be out of the game. And they're like, all right, you know what? We have enough players. It's fine. But now, because the party that's been, and I hate to be like this, but like, we've been paying taxes to put litter boxes in classrooms so that we can teach children to be domesticated slave pets for other people. You know what I mean? And that wasn't like one half of the country. That was the other half of the. It's become like that. It's like the Moses line thing. And so it's hard to play the moral authority. It's just they don't have it. There's no more moral authority there. So we have to actually completely. It's like you left your abusive alcoholic father who used to beat you, and now you're the dad, and you have to make new rules in the house.
Oh boy, yeah. Somebody in the comments says Chelsea Clinton's Twitter is blowing up at the moment, and that's referring to. I think I saw Chelsea Clinton talking about
the wedding was paid.
the Clinton Foundation and defending the Clinton Foundation. But what's interesting, I didn't see DOGE address the Clinton Foundation. I mean, I'm sure maybe they have, but it felt almost like preemptive, because the first place that I hear about the scrutinizing of the Clinton Foundation is from Chelsea Clinton. So I don't even know. Like, I'm like, is that what's happening, or is she just preemptively? I don't know. Is that what's happening?
I saw. Let's see, Clinton USAID wedding. If you type in the Clinton USAID wedding, I thought that they showed the money. DOGE gave USAID $84 million to Chelsea Clinton. That was supposed to go to relief in Haiti. DOGE shows that $3 million of that was spent on Chelsea's wedding. $10 million went towards a luxury mansion. Okay. So this is confirmed by DOGE allegedly.
To be fair, if you throw the Clintons money and they use that money doing something other than being in Haiti, then you have kind of provided some relief to Haiti by just keeping the Clintons out of their country, even for
but that's not how. That's cute, but it's not how it works, because the Clintons. That's the thing. The reason why Haiti's the way it is the Clinton Foundation has been human trafficking, destroying those people, subjugating them for decades now, and it's a continued systematic attack that's been going back far beyond the Clintons, obviously. The Toussaint Overture and the French Freemasons, and there's the idea that Haiti was the first democracy, the first independent secessionist country in the West. The first one of the, I think was it Haiti was the first country to recognize. It's Morocco, I think, was the first country to recognize the United States, but Haiti was a close second, and they financially helped us. And Haiti recognized Chile, and Chile and Haiti both helped the United States in the early Monroe period. So we have a strong, solid, important liberté, égalité, fraternité, Masonic relationship with Haiti. And to see what's happened to it, I mean, if you look at where Haiti is and what the difference is, and like in Cuba and this region, it's just like the destruction there is so systematic. It's so terrifying. And you can talk to Haitians about cannibal witch people, like the witch doctor Santeria that's happening there. And you can look back like through anthropology and see that the French weren't as into that as they are now. This is something that's happened particularly in the last 100 years. It's become this like occult, sex magic, cannibal island, which of course that's be where the Clintons want to hang out. So I don't know. I mean, it's not that they're getting
some of this started with JFK, right? Isn't JFK the one that pulled funding to Haiti, which is what made Papa Doc Duvier sort of claim that he put a hex on Kennedy, which ended up resulting in his assassination. But it goes back to JFK with some very strained relations. And really, that was just another version of like this Doge. It was just like, hey, why are we sending all this money? Let's stop doing that.
Hey, you just shared that photo. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm just gonna make a prediction. Very soon, Epstein files are gonna be released.
I hope. I mean,
I put my money on it. Very soon. And I know people have been saying this forever, but now is actually the time. They just appointed that lady who's also doing the JFK.
You know what they should do?
At the same time, I think it's going to take longer to sort through the JFK file stuff to come up with some real meat. If that happens, you're probably going to see the Epstein stuff come within probably the next 10 days.
What's the last day of school for most kids? Like June. It should come out like June 17th. So that there's no school shootings or anything. Like they can't There should be no excuses. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I don't want to have like a big, I just want it as long, as few holidays or events that happen without people that can protect themselves.
Right. I've been annoyed when people, you guys can disagree with me on this, is fine. But like when people say the Epstein list, I get a bit annoyed with that because I'm like, we have lists. I'm not interested in people that he's associated with generally. I want files on what the specifics are. Like, I don't want to say like, oh, somebody was on a plane or they're wherever, even if they're on the freaking island, excuse me. That for me isn't proof enough to say anything. That feels like communist witch hunting crap. Like, I'm not into that. I want to see files that actually have real crimes attached to different people with the evidence for that. Like, you know what I mean?
What's on the videos? Screw the notebook.
Sure.
The FBI had boxes full of videes they were leaving there with, right?
Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm like, because people say the Epstein list. I'm like, what is that going to do? I want the files, and that's the words that I'm hearing in the last week. And that's why I would say this is, and also combined with who they put in charge of that, I think this is going to happen soon.
I don't know. I'm skeptical just because I'm always skeptical, but also the list was already out, like you said. So the list doesn't really have any sort of political capital associated with it. A box of freaking tapes that could make you the next governor or ambassador or whatever. Like, and if you got a box of them, each one of those tapes could compromise somebody, right? And it would. In my ultimate pessimism, who's going to be like, hey, I've got this box full of millions of dollars. Let me just go ahead and give it to the rest of the public and just let that value evaporate. I think that there's capital represented in that. That is an actual value store, right? A box of Epstein tapes is a value store.
Right. Allegedly, Adam Schiff has over what? He has 300 something emails or something with Epstein. Like, he's freaking out right now more than almost anybody in Congress over the people who are being appointed. Tulsi, and by the way, it was really something to see Bernie vote against Tulsi. And is he going to do it again tomorrow? Like, that is bad. Like, these people's careers are like ending before our eyes, and they're losing it over it. And Epstein's connected to that. Like, they can talk about all this different stuff, whatever, and point their finger about whatever, but it is not looking good for them.
What does Bernie even need to hold on to, though? He's got
a foot fetish.
Oh, and I've made this argument maybe poorly before,
legacy, dignity.
But that Bernie Sanders,
that's
his role
dignity
is that, like, he's at his peak role. If he had any more power, he would like almost lose some of his street cred by gaining more power. So being in the exact spot, he doesn't want a nomination. He doesn't want to actually have a realistic chance of the White House, because then people start analyzing what he's actually doing. But he's in this perfect little like warm zone where he can make these grandiose claims, and people are like, yeah, we're with you. But he knows that he's not in the position to actually do the things about them, which, again, it's such a convenient place to be able to do this.
Right. It's been all talk. And you know what? But like that whole thing, like he's still talking about Medicare for all. It was on the table. Pelosi instructed the squad to vote against it. They did, as told, and he never said a word.
How much you bet?
I don't care. It's all talk.
By the end of Trump's term, we're going to have social health care, maybe, because if you look at what he's going to do with the sovereign wealth fund and the Social Security cleanup, right? If we have Social Security just for American citizens, we're right now paying 20 or 30 million people's lives, far more than any Americans being paid, right? Veterans, etc. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to make sure that veterans are taken care of. And then the second thing they're going to do is make sure that people below the poverty line are taken care of. And the third thing they're going to do is expand that to the remaining 20 million or 50 million people, because it's going to be most people that are below the poverty line by this point. It's already happening. So the Republican Party already was the party that introduced Social Security. People forget it's the social service that the Republicans invented these in the beginning. It wasn't Democrats that were producing social services. So it makes a lot of sense to me that the Republicans are going to go the way of being social service economy, because that also leads into the plan for a greater new American century. The idea of having an American empire. Rome had to have social services. Rome had to have free bread, free wine. To an extent, we're talking about the same thing. And the number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States is medical debt, right? It's just too much in Trump's ear. It's too much in his zone of care all of a sudden. So I think that we're going to see a lot of, and the other thing is the Democrats the DNC's whole game is the more problems there are, the more they can talk about how they're going to do something about the problems. So the more they can keep problems existing, the more they can create pets for their pet causes, right? And if you take that away from them by giving people health care, there's very little left for them to pretend. They no longer have the moral high ground. Pretty soon they won't even have the abstract ideology of benefit helping the people, because if people are taken care of, then there's no more reason for them to even plight, right? I think that's the easiest way to put their fire out, right?
It's amazing that it took up to this point for a lot of the people who were still had their, like, they cared about Bernie to drop it because of Tulsi. So, like, you know, in terms of like Democrats' support of Bernie Sanders, he's losing his support right now, as far as I can tell, more than he had despite 2 times being a sheepdog for the DNC. Him being a sheepdog for the DNC, they could forgive easier because they were like, well, he got wronged. And now the woman who stuck up for him more than anybody in the entire government when he got wronged, he's now voting against, saying just absolute rubbish about Russia influenced or whatever. I mean, I believe he's still on board with that, like Hillary accused her of.
Oh my God.
And that's crazy. That's a crime. Like, that's a crime punishable by death that Hillary accused Tulsi of, without any shred of substance as to why she believed that. She couldn't, you know. What did she have? She had nothing. It's just crazy.
You guys want to hear? I got a leftist friend here, and he posts random horrible takes all the time. I just feel like it's good to share with the world random horrible takes, just because we need to understand. You have to understand the mind of the enemy. If you weren't convinced we were in a constitutional crisis when Elon Musk breached the U.S. Treasury digital systems, which control $5 trillion in payments of the entire federal government. And by the way, I should add and emphasize, not just our federal government, but like apparently 8% of the BBC, you know, like we're paying for the, like, after, dude, I need to take another break. The Tea protests, the Tea Party protests were about 2% of tax just on tea. And we flipped out. And we're paying 8% of the debt for the BBC's media system so that British people can have forced media, which, by the way, they're in Britain right now putting up signs that say, if you're not paying for the BBC, we're going to make a tax where everyone has to pay for the BBC. And if you're watching, Cody boxes, or you've got some sort of hack TV thing, guess what? We can see everyone who has a TV in the neighborhood and which ones don't have cable. And they're breaking in doors and arresting people for not watching the Orwellian 1984 BBC box, and it's paid for by our American tax dollars. So,
just to state the obvious, though, the Tea Party wasn't about $2 a tax; it was about a monopoly, and it was about the whole taxation. With the fact that the money that they were taking from the taxes went directly to the oppressors, right? And that was, I think, that was the most egregious part. It's like, okay, you're going to take my money, but now you're going to give it to that guy that like killed this kid, you know, like in my neighborhood. That was, I think, one of the other major components of that.
The BBC had a journalist recently arrested who was discovered for filming himself raping to death dozens and dozens of dogs.
What kind of dogs, though?
Beagles?
Like terriers and things like that, like little ones. And yeah, let's see. The BBC journalist rapes dogs.
Does it make it better or worse that they were small dogs?
I mean, exactly. I think some of them were different. He's a crocodile expert. That's what they're calling him, because they don't want to say that he was a journalist. But there's a couple other examples. BBC characters.
Like the shoes or the.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Adam Britton. Oh my God. So the thing is, BBC's kind of weird, and this isn't my first rodeo or your first date at Chuck E. Cheese. You know that you the first girl I brought here for real. Chuck E. Cheese employee looking at you like,
hey,
no.
Can someone make a chicken flu mean like the bird flu? Because, like, you know, there's something. Okay, guys, like eggs right now, like this going up. Then the people are saying, "Oh, this is Trump's economy" or whatever. Did we talk about this last week? I don't know. They murdered millions of chickens. Okay, And I'm like, and I got curious. I was just, what was their basis for murdering the chickens? Because they think they had bird flu. How do they know that they had bird flu? And I'm like, don't tell me they use PCR. So I go to look it up. They use PCR. Now my question is, did they do the same scam that they did with humans, but instead of what they did with humans, they actually murdered the chickens? Which is, there's misconceptions. People say, oh, they were turning the PCR tests up too high and magnifying them too much to get the test results that they wanted. That's not really the truth. Truth is that when you get a PCR test, when it goes through the lab, the readout gives you all these different levels of magnification, right? So like even Fauci himself has said that if it goes above 35 CT cycle threshold, then that is not determinant that this is a real case. This is like, and Kerry Mullis went off about this back when he was still alive. I think he died in the end of 2019 or so. But the inventor of PCR emphasized this point of the way that it can be misused. Not to say that it's a problem with the function of PCR. It's just this is the way that they're treating it is that they look at this magnification and they go, oh, we got a case. Well, if you're trying to get a case and you're like just to make the argument, oh, surely this is the case. It looks like they were looking for an excuse to kill these chickens.
Yeah.
Like more than just like, because if they were using PCR to determine that these chickens had the bird flu, how do we even know? That might not be anything problematic, and we don't even have proof that this could go from the chicken to us just because we're eating it. Like,
but there are 2 new cases of bovine transmission from bird flu, which is like not usual. So we're getting dairy cows that are being too close. Apparently, I don't know, but like that means you believe in germ theory, and I don't even know what I believe anymore, bro. I'll be honest.
Sure. But I'm just saying that this looks engineered, and the egg chicken crisis, and people being like whatever. It looks like an engineered crisis again, and it's like coming out of the past. Like, is this going to maintain itself? Like, what is happening? Like, and also there's just this weird thing of like the slaughterhouse industry, and like speaking. Like RFK, that's one of the big things that he's gone after in his career as an environmental lawyer, and particularly with the slaughterhouses for pigs and whatnot, is just like the conditions and the treatment and all this stuff. But this isn't that. This is literally they put the chickens into a room, fill it with foam, murder them apparently by the millions now. And then they're like, oh, wow, look at, he's not doing good with the economy. The prices are going up on these chickens that we're murdering. Like, I'm like, what the hell is going on? Did he make the order to give the chickens the PCR test and count them if they go above 35 CT? Like, I don't like, I'm sorry.
Well, it's like the equivalent of like leaving a large deuce in your in like your rental right before you give it up to the next person.
God, I feel so bad at that time. No, I'm just kidding.
It seems like it's okay. It's just total craziness. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys probably remember the Garden State Scrubs guy made the Chicken Little movie, which is one of everyone's favorite flat Earth films because it's about the firmament actually falling in on you, and this bird gets it. He knows it's happening, and a lot of people think it's because of a social hysteria, but it's not a social hysteria, or if it is, it's an inversion of the social hysteria. It's where like you're able to say it's okay that the world's on fire. That it's actually just as hysterical for people to act calm during, a burning down building and they're walking around like there's nothing wrong. But there was a Disney movie from 1943, the band almost. You've seen the Chicken Little from 1943?
You have to.
This is the one where it's about Mein Kampf, where the wolf is literally reading out of Mein Kampf.
Well, right. And it's psychology, yeah. And
you got the bird reading femme and the other bird reading veg instead of Vogue, right?
right.
And you've got these eggheads, right? Like this little kid is an egghead. That's the thing. The kid who kind of knows what's going on. He's supposed to be smart, so he's supposed to be an egghead. But this character is reading psychology, which is very much like Bernaysian or Austrian, and he's able to influence the entire community.
This is the remake. This is the remake because originally the book was literally Mein Kampf. It said Mein Kampf on the title of the book. When they re-released this, they had to change it.
Really?
I think you're right. Yeah,
I know I'm right.
You have to be. You're Thomas. Where's do they show the picture? Can I just find a picture of the original somewhere? Here we go. Here's the picture of him, I guess. But it's not from the cartoon. It's just like from the book itself.
Well, that was a storyboard from the cartoon, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they took it out. Why would they take out Mein Kampf? Wouldn't you want that? Like, obviously. Why would they get rid of that? It's like the most socially relevant thing they could have done.
Right. So yeah.
Whatever. The point
Whatever.
is, the wolf is reading Mein Kampf, and he's and then the thing is, the birds all die, right? Like it ends up being that they let themselves slowly get cooked, but like lobsters in this manipulation, right?
Right.
So,
They fight the person who's one. Yeah. It's strange because like if I go on Facebook, like the way Andreas has explained this to me in the past is that Facebook is like the small town, Twitter's like the big city. It's very true. What my experience of it is, and I'm sure most people's. Ever since they narrowed it down following the Egyptian protests, like once they used Facebook for the Egyptian protests and were very successful with that, then it was immediately that Facebook narrowed your reach. There used to be viral posts on Facebook, like the equivalent of Twitter. It's like the same thing. But anyway, I see a lot of like panic like from people. Like it's like they're being like, if I listen to AOC or Elizabeth Warren or these people, they're trying, it looks like they're overtly trying to work people into a frenzy, which if you watch the Chicken Little cartoon, that is in the book, whether it be Mein Kampf or Psychology, that's what he's describing, like what his strategy is to get the chickens, so but I'm seeing it constantly. Like it's like people in a total panic, like they are freaked out that we're literally like, this is Nazi Germany. Like, and what that question of like, what would you do if you were in Nazi Germany? Would you have gone there? And they're like, and isn't it interesting the way that the most mainstream stuff is now taking on the part of like counterculture, like the mainstream positions, like, and that's been happening, like with whether it be Ukraine or all the COVID hysteria or whatever. It's like the mainstream position is the position to have, and their interpretation of anything other than their position is extremist. So like there is no middle ground for them. Like if you say a comment that's middle ground, they'll take it that if you're not with them, you're against them. So it feels very George W. time, you know what I mean? Like with us or against us, like. So, which I believe in the Star Wars prequels, wasn't only a Sith deals an absolute, kind of a response to George W.'s statements around you're with us or against us. I mean, that's how it felt at the time. Maybe that wasn't intentional, but yeah, it's just crazy. The hysteria on Facebook is maddening. Like it's like, whoa, dude! Like the amount of everyone calling everyone a fascist if they disagree with them at all. Like you are just it's like constant. It's nuts.
Well, so I guess we were trying to close the thing. I wanted to get the neurotic take really quickly, and I got my own neurotic take happen. Right. Where is it? So DOGE team, now Trump is defying federal court orders of lifting the NIH freeze, ignoring temporary restraining orders by the judicial branch, completely undermines the balance of power. This freeze affects cancer research and other life-saving government power across the United States. This is law and order crisis, and we need Republican Congress members to defend what they've campaigned on. To all my Republican friends, I hope we can get on the same page here that the country goes over party. This is not wartime, and there's no legitimate reason except for a Project 2025 plan power grab by the executive branch, patently dangerous to the Republic. I said, no, you can't have an independent audit of the federal spending. That's illegal. But yeah, what do you think? Is this true? Like, am I wrong here? Is this guy crazy? Am I crazy? Like, where are we at with the, like, how do we reach these kids?
What a great meme template with the flag there. That's nice.
You like it? You like it?
It's painful because that could be repurposed in a lot of different ways right there. Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah. It's like so much of it. It's this whole month, dude. It's the vibe. All right. So, but like, what do you think about this? The overreached executive branch? Do you have any feelings on that, or do you want to just whatever, bro?
I feel like the executive branch has been overreaching for my entire natural born life. So I'm just, this is like another fish being like, the water's gonna kill you. Like, I guess I've been living in this water since I was born.
Right. I think it's really interesting that the fear is DOGE, when the role of DOGE is not what they're claiming it is. Just like the role of USAID investigating people is not the role they're claiming it is. Like, this isn't what these people are tasked with. They're tasked with, like, and the nature of the audit is such as, like, they're not making any executive decisions themselves. Like, that's why you can have young people doing the work, because it's just like, see what you come up with, put our brightest minds out there who are good at this particular job, bright in this particular capacity, like, you've shown that you have this ability with the internet. I mean, I'll tell you what, man, I'm 43 years old. I hang around somebody like who's not 20 years old, and I watch the way that they use the internet, like with their fingers, like I'm like, I don't even know. They're so much faster than me. I mean, this is in the Zohar, man, where they're like, describing, it's kind of a prophetic thing of like that the children will be moving so much faster than the adults can even keep up with. They don't even know what they're doing anymore, and they're judging it, but they don't even understand it. It's completely past them, like that's happening,
Yeah. Well, RFK is what they think confirming tomorrow. Is that like
yeah.
And Tulsi might even today.
It appears that they're really confident with it because even JD Vance is like not even in the country. So like they're like he doesn't have to, like he would have to rush in physically to offer his vote if it was that close. It looks like they're confident that they have the vote. So fingers crossed. But it's looking good for all three. I actually don't know. I haven't been paying as much attention to Cash in terms of does he have the votes as stated already. I don't know, but I know that Tulsi and RFK Jr. it's looking good for them. So we'll see.
Well, what do you think about Vance in Paris? He was talking about American interests.
Also a great Kanye song.
Vance in Paris. Is that a Kanye song?
Or a Jay-Z song?
Oh.
He does seem to say like the things that people want to hear. He doesn't just F couches. I think he's actually pretty good at speaking. That's like what's kind of been surprising, I think, in some respects. No one expected him to be so well spoken. And he's been pushing for the same idea, dealing with European immigration issues the same way America's trying to do it right now. And
why did they think that would be helpful to them, or to just call everyone weird when weird isn't even an insult anymore in the first place? Like, why did they think it would be helpful to accuse JD Vance of humping a couch in his memoir, which was made into a film by Ron Howard starring Glenn Close?
I think it's a great point. Because the weird thing came out, it was like, God, what a weirdo. Okay, hold on, my kid needs to use the litter box. Like that was a real statement, probably uttered by somebody.
I just remember as a kid, like my brother used to say all the time, like, from 10 years old on, he's just like, man, F your couch. Like he would constantly say, F your couch. That's like a thing. So I mean, if he said it, other kids might have, and that means that that's just applied. Like he's the guy who F'd the couch. Like, and how many dudes have like, a problem with their wife or something like that, and they have to sleep on the couch. That's like a thing. So maybe there's something to it.
These are just really bad strategies, and in a
it's
lot
relatable
of
in a weird way.
Like they wanted to lose. It's like,
yeah, that's true.
Man.
It feels like that. It feels like, because that's the other thing. It's like Israel clearly sided and financed the Republican Party this year, and to the extent that the DNC has been anti-Zion, anti-Israel. Like a lot of Palestinians.
They were completely stuck because what they had opposite messaging because they're trying to get it from one side and it screwed them over on the other. So the DNC reached an impasse when it came to Israel-Palestine, because on one level they had all these young activists whose votes they wanted, but they had their other reasons for wanting to, assert the directive that they were after, and so they screwed themselves over completely. Oh, there it is.
Yep, you found it. Oh my gosh.
I can't take too much credit because I just recently did a Chicken Little breakdown for the Occult Disney podcast, and this became a huge point of it. But not just Mein Kampf, but Mein Kampf wouldn't have existed without The Crowd by Gustave Le Bon. And a lot of Mein Kampf is just kind of paraphrasing The Crowd, and he's reciting parts of The Crowd that, like, quite literally, he's talking about how if you want to talk to a wide audience, you have to get them into a concept of fear first. And then he, like you were mentioning, David, he ushers them all. And if anyone cares about the original ending, he ushers all the chickens that are freaking out. He's like, hey, we can hide in this cave here. Just run into the cave and we'll block it off. And that way you'll be safe from, everything coming down. And then as soon as they go into that little cave, then him and his homeboys run in. They just eat all the chickens.
That's still the ending. Do they have a different ending? And all the wishbones are lined up in a row? Yeah, right. He's like picking his teeth afterwards, like, meh. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dude, if you can sync it somehow with Q Lazarus, because I've been thinking about QAnon and Q Lazarus and Goodbye Horses and Silence of the Lambs, there's got to be.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that I decided, I've been watching Twin Peaks The Return, and I've decided that Q is the log lady.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Because she's always given like the cryptic messages to solve the Laura Palmer case, you know. So I'm pretty sure this lady's Q. Been
you're onto something. It's log. Batteries not included. Yeah.
Rolls downstairs, rolls over in Paris, rolls over your neighbor's dog. Yeah.
It's log. Okay. Well, yeah. Some of that Diane Lucky lady disappeared. And how about let's do. We know Adidas exists. Did you hear that the Mexican president said that we know Adidas exist? That's my new mantra.
Song?
That's my new mantra. So she said, so you voted to build a wall. Well, dear Americans, even if you don't understand that much about geography, your country, and your continent, it's important to know before the first brick is laid that there are 7 billion people beyond that wall. Since you don't really understand the people, we'll use the term consumers. There are 7 billion consumers ready to replace their iPhones and Samsungs or Huawei devices in less than 42 hours. They can also replace their Levi's with Zara's and Massimo Dutti in less than 6 months. We can easily stop buying Ford and Chevrolet cars and replace them with Toyota, Kia, Mazda, Honda, Hyundai, Volvo, Subaru, Renault, BMW, which are technically better than the American cars. These 7 billion people can also stop subscribing to DirecTV. We don't want to do that, but we can stop watching Hollywood movies and start watching more Latin American or European productions that have better quality message, cinematic techniques. And
Why
content.
don't they already do all this already?
They do, though. That's what's retarded. Like, if you go to South America, you think that many people are watching American movies? Okay, they watch like the Disney Marvel like movies in theaters and stuff like that. But Mexican TV is supreme. You know what I mean? It's like it's the same thing, basically. It's still written by the same Israelis. So even if you don't believe it, even in Mexico, there are better hamburgers than McDonald's, and they have better nutritional content. Has anyone seen the pyramids
here? Well, their water's superior.
Well, you know what, bro? Topo Chico is like the water I drink. I drink Mexican mineral water. So they do have great water. They just have bad infrastructure in certain places, which is probably because of American corporations. Because if you go to like Argentina, where they have German infrastructure, they have Mercedes-Benz made the pipes, right? I mean, yeah, everything's perfect. You can drink water like you're in Spain or Paris or something like that. Back, because they used to have good water. But okay. They don't have pyramids in the United States. Egypt, Mexico, Peru, Guatemala, Sudan, other countries have pyramids with incredible civilizations. Find out what the wonders of the ancient and modern world. None of them in the U.S. Shame on Trump. He would have bought them and sold them. We know that Adidas exists, not just Nike. And we can start wearing Mexican sneakers like Panam. We know more than you think. We know, for example, that if these 7 billion consumers don't buy their products, there will be unemployment and the economy will collapse within the racist wall to such an extent that they will beg us to tear down the ugly wall. We didn't want to, but you want a wall, you get a wall. Sincerely yours. I don't know. It seems like kind of a bunch of nonsense. But what do you think?
I don't know. It's going to get pretty tricky if the Danish actually end up buying California. That
was the next one, yeah.
I do have to point out, too, that ironically, it was an American that discovered Chichen Itza. It was an American that discovered Machu Picchu. Those things wouldn't even be Mormon. Well, I mean, I know his name was Brigham. Was he a Mormon, too? I didn't know that.
Fun times. I don't know. We could look at deeper, but I feel like that's probably the case. I know the Mormons love it down there. They love the research.
If your name's Brigham, we'll just default to Mormon. You got to prove otherwise.
That's pretty hard to get away with.
Somebody in the comments says American DOGE is definitely anti-satanic. Now, I'm not sure if they're saying DOGE because they spell it DODGE, if they're trying to say Doge, but they spelled it Dodge. But Dodge, if you look at the Dodge Ram, for example, that looks very satanic. Their symbol, got like what is apparently like a ram head, with the pentagram and everything. So
I see a cervix whenever I see the Dodge Ram. The first thing I see is the cervix. It's like the Volvo is the Volvo with the masculine.
Well,
sign.
it's such two opposite things to Dodge and to ram. You know what I mean? Like you ram something and you Dodge, get out of the way of it. I'm like, what are we doing here? I guess it can do both.
You ram the cervix.
Right. Find yourself a truck that can do both.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, okay, but you did bring this up, and this is kind of a joke, but how serious could it be? Like, why not? Honestly, do you have any idea how much money Denmark has? They only have 6 million people, and realistically, like, they have a lot of oil money, and California could easily petition to become part of Greenland and Denmark. And that would be an interesting solution, because then you'd have a war between the United States and the Confederate state. It'd be a civil war in the North American hemisphere again, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is this too crazy, or could this be a thing? Because remember, South Park predicted this in a sense with the Troll Wars and the Danes.
Oh, speaking of which, if you watch that season now, it is one of the most prophetic things that South Park has ever done by far. If you look at the way that it ends with Starlink, because they do what do they do? How does that
troll trace?
Yeah, so the troll trace thing, it ends with that they're gonna look at what is it? Starlink gets the internet. Like Starlink owns the internet at the end of that season.
Yeah,
And
true.
so and their whole portrayal of Musk at that time and the liberal view of
which
what
actually
Musk
has
was.
real Elon Musk. Actually, he does his own voice in the show too, which is crazy.
Oh, did he? I didn't even know that.
It's actually Elon Musk, which is weird. He also did his own voice for Rick and Morty. He did his own voice for a number of cartoons that year.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, no, it's the whole thing is just totally meta. Sorry, Zuck, but it is it feels very, very like it transcends the bounds. Also, just like the South Park's political commentary all through Trump's first term and even beyond, it's actually timeless as it stands. Like maybe in the future it won't be timeless, but right now, like if you watch it, like the 2017 season, which is I believe the season after this, like it could just as easily be released now, and you can hardly tell. You know what I mean? Like their whole portrayal of Trump and all the issues. Like when he's running against Hillary the season before, like he tries to destroy his own possibility to be president. Like he changes his mind, but then like he'll be like telling people like why they don't want him as president, and then after in the debates, and then Hillary will jump in afterwards and be like,
my opponent is a liar.
My opponent is a liar. Don't listen to a thing he says.
Everything he says is categorically false and untrue. Like, lady, I am giving this to you.
I'm trying to give this to you, and you won't take it because and that is real. Like that is like what has happened. It's like they can't. How they wanted to use him to make themselves look better, but then they continue to be so corrupt that it doesn't even matter. They would actually prefer this guy that they selected themselves because of how bad they thought he was and how bad they could make him look. And so, just oof, man, that's something.
Well, it's interesting that they refused to do the season this last fall because they didn't want to affect the election, essentially. Which, I mean, to be fair, I feel like in a lot of ways, South Park does affect the election every year. And that was playing before the election. They were thinking, they said that they thought Trump was going to lose, and it threw them off. But in so many ways,
you heard them say that, because I saw them say that the reason why they didn't want to do it at some point, I saw them saying that they weren't going to do more political stuff like that, was because they felt that it's been so overdone by everybody, and they were just like, we want to do our own thing, you know.
That's just a cowardice thing to say, I think. But at the same time, it was so obvious what was going to happen. I feel like it was the only thing that's not obvious is that we're living on the timeline where less corruption happened. And it's crazy to imagine that the election wasn't further. I mean, I kind of expected more January 6th from the Democrats again. You know, I expected more like that again. Like there should have been more. Not should have been, but it felt like it's weird that there hasn't been more school shootings and riots and psyops and everything like normal. You know, it's like something has already been. The military's things of the last 4 years have already been set up for this election.
They barely report on that. So when they set fire to things, and when there's been riots that have been barely reported on by mainstream media, and some people don't even know that they ever happened. You know, in terms of Democrats' response, Democrat cities freaking out over Trump stuff. Like, I mean, if you go back though, like there's examples there's a documentary, I don't remember what it's called, but there's a great documentary on the New York protests that happened about George W., his second inauguration. And at that point, it was the biggest protest that had ever happened in the United States for anything. And most people don't even know that it took place. It was, there was protests in Washington, but the bigger one was in New York. And if you watch this documentary, you can see it from above, and it's so massive. And it's bigger than Occupy, of how many people turned out that day, like how many people showed up that Occupy went for a long time. So there was you couldn't, but also Occupy was also publicized, and everybody knows that Occupy happened. Like most people don't even know that this protest even took place. There was the biggest protest that ever happened in the world happened in India during COVID over what was happening with the Indian farmers and how they're being screwed by billionaires. And there's levels to the intricacies of that, but they had a bigger turnout of the biggest protest that ever happened in the history of the world, and hardly anyone even knows it happened. because that's the weird thing about protests these days. You're turning up in person for something, which is why the internet, you can at least make your message known better than you can by showing up in person. Like it used to be with the civil rights movement. Oh, you want to stand up for a cause like Martin Luther King in Washington or whatever. It's like you show up physically. It's like you could show up physically, and it almost doesn't even have. It's almost not even a blurb that it took place.
If Kylie Jenner's not out there handing out Pepsis, then are you even at a real protest?
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember my mom bought like $100 worth of water bottles at one point for Occupy people because of the internet back in 2008, and I was like,
I remember.
Who are you sending that money to? What do you think that's gonna happen with that? You're crazy.
I remember the coffee guy. Was that his name? Coffee. That was a huge one for a long time. When I was at Disney, like everyone in my department was like, "Have you donated to the coffee yet?" And I was just like, "Where did that money go?" It's not like they sent mercenaries there to take the guy out.
That's right. Right. Where did the money go? And that's what's happening now. And people in government are losing their shit over it. All of Congress is losing it because they can't stand to have people know where the money went. I mean, maybe that's an oversimplification, but I think that there's truth to it.
Well, also, wouldn't a ledger also sort of take care of this, like nip it in the bud, so that it can't even happen to begin with?
So one of my favorite things that is now being pushed, which the first person I heard say is, maybe somebody said it before, but RFK had suggested putting the entire budget on blockchain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, what a great idea, because that could mean every American could be able to access all of that. That would end the gold toilet problem. Like
every autist out there can now like ferret out and post publicly, hey, what's this exact transaction? What's this wallet address go to?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing, is that I'm having a hard time seeing how this is a coup. I keep seeing that word used in regards to what Elon Musk is doing.
A coup is when a democracy wins an election and you lose. When they get more votes than you, that's a coup.
I mean, it's weird because we were talking earlier, like pointing at the Boston Tea Party, and that was such a small percentage of the American population that was here.
Over such a non-issue at 2% of tea.
Right, it's like a very small amount of people had such a big impact, So I mean, could you call that a coup if we're just loosening up the term like that? But yeah, no, it's just that kind of thing. When you have these people are suggesting, can we get the whole thing on blockchain? Can we get the public? Because we say government by the people for the people, and then you're like, isn't that one of the most direct examples of knowing exactly where our tax money is going, and to be able to hold that in?
Yeah, Sparrows is saying it's been confirmed that Omar did marry her brother, which we thought we already knew. We did know that. I don't think it's that new, but I think I did see that Elon Musk just posted it, so like, I mean, people now know it. I don't know if she's actually doing him. Rather, I think she just married him to get him into the country. Don't really care, I think the point is that stuff happens more in the north than in the south. I just
the consummation was just more of like a family thing.
Yeah, and like, speaking of small groups of people that do things that affect the rest of us, what do you think about Israel and Hamas right now? We have the ceasefire that's probably going to end on Saturday if we don't get all of the hostages back, which they're probably not going to do. Well, and what is left of Gaza anyway? It's like a parking lot.
I've been afraid that, and I'm no expert on this, but I've been afraid for a long time that who's to say that they've been claiming that they have hostages that are now already dead. Mm-hmm. Like, if your hostages die, who's to know, unless if you tell them that they died, and if you tell them that you died, then you lose your hostage.
You got to bring back the bodies, though, right? I think that's kind of
maybe, unless who knows what they do with the bodies. I don't know.
They're actually putting each hostage goes into a box with depleted uranium, and you can't know until you open it. But if you open it, you're the one that killed them.
Yeah, well, it's a really twisted thing, So I don't know. I mean, the solution for what to do now is different than what I would have said, October 8th, of last year. It's like, I can't. I won't. If at this point, what is the best route to deal with the issue? Like back then, I wouldn't have said, "Oh, see if Jordan." We can set something else up in Jordan, because if you look at what Gaza looks like, I mean, that was what Trump was describing. He's like he was shown like what Gaza looks like right now, and it's like it's such a mess. Like and people understandably like have a really visceral reaction to the idea of, you know, oh, now we're gonna make it all better, and what America's gonna own it. But America's been investing in Israel for how long? Like, it's really messed up. So, you know, I feel bad about what's happened to, I mean, beyond that, I don't know what the solution is.
I mean, like, they're gonna build a shopping mall, right? Isn't that kind of
that's kind of the idea, but then you're like, where are they going to provide? Like, because, you know, Syria hasn't been helpful, Egypt hasn't been helpful, no one's been helpful to the Palestinians. They've been screwed from all fronts, all sides. And at the same time, you know, like, as far as like what Israel is in the Middle East is so anomalous. Like, it's like the freest place to be in the Middle East. Like, your experience in Israel, like, you're not going to get killed for being like the you know, gays for Palestine or whatever. I'm like, you know that they would drag you through the streets for your life choices, right? Like, they're not supportive of you, but you're very supportive of them.
They'll only do it to you one time.
Oh, it's just it's so convoluted, I guess. I don't know.
Let's try another one.
What do we got?
I'll give this one a shot.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a difficult one. You guys got a solution for how to deal with Gaza at this point?
Walt Disney World. Add a Disney World Israel. Because once Disney, the global conglomerate, has a vested interest in also, you know, establishing peace in that area, like, money will talk. I think capitalism can solve this issue. The problem is that most buyers don't really want to put their money down on this yet.
That's it. Did you make this?
Yep.
If you listen to Trump's take on it, it doesn't sound dissimilar from what you're saying, Thomas. Like, that's what it seems like he's describing. It's just like his wording is just like, oh my God, is that where we're at? Is that what's happening?
Well, he's like, we're gonna buy Israel, and I can't remember if it was on this show last week, but this is just the most typical sort of like bargaining tactic. This is just him making deals the same way that the tariffs were like, all right, tariffs across the board, and then every single news outlet is scrambling and they're writing all these letters about how this is going to affect us 4 months and 8 months down the line. It's going to cause, and then like literally like 8 hours later, he's like, oh, actually, we're going to put a pause on this one and this one because, and it's just a typical, but it is interesting because we're used to in the news cycle, like the president does something, Biden would declare something, and it would take like 2 or 3 months until you heard the next iteration of that. Now the president says something, and 3 hours later, he's changed his mind. He's reversed course, and
not even just he's changed his mind. That we see the other people changing their mind. We saw what happened with Trudeau. It was within 1 to 2 hours. Like, AOC was losing her shit about the whole future of America.
That's right, I'm Vance. Got no pants, yeah, I'm gonna this couch. I'm JD.
Thank you, Thomas.
I have no pants, cause I'm gonna the couch. That's right, I'm Vance. Got no pants, yeah, I'm gonna this couch. I'm JD Vance. I have no pants, cause I'm gonna the couch.
Wow.
That's right, I'm Vance. Got no pants, yeah, I'm gonna this couch.
See, he's totally relatable. That's the problem.
He likes cats.
That's exactly what you would do if you had a couch and some cats. You would do the same thing.
I saw AOC having an absolute meltdown. I think 3 different times in like the course of like a week. Just a complete meltdown, freaking out about something Trump had said in regards to somebody else. And then you're right, Thomas, within like 2 to 3 hours, it became completely irrelevant. And if you listen to the words that she was using, she's talking about the entire future of one in particular was Canada and America. She's like, this is the whole future of Canada. Like, and she like, and then it didn't matter anymore because Trudeau said, okay, actually caved. And then it's like, okay, now we're moving forward. It's just like, it's happening so rapidly that it's like,
I love
so
that.
Right, like,
no one's used to it. The news organization's not used to it. Other politicians aren't used to it. They're used to being able to get way more mileage out of some sort of controversy. And again, like, this is what in a weird way makes Trump stand out, that he doesn't have that same political capital and the upbringing of like restoring that capital. He can throw stuff out and change it constantly. And I think that he understands now too that version of him being an agent of chaos, it allows him to like wade through these waters more because he's the one creating all of this chaos, so he knows how to sort of navigate it way better than anyone.
I have to like take pause when
Yes,
I hear
King.
something that Trump is saying now and seeing him speaking with Netanyahu and whatever, because what is it going to be in a week or a month, let alone a year? Like,
Well, that's
and
the thing. I mean, so he says it. I think he's saying things, and that's interesting because he goes in and he doesn't tell them what he's going to say, and then he says a bunch of things to the American people. So they're thinking what's going to happen is he's going to make deals with them, and he's going to tell them, okay, Israel, you can have Gaza for this amount of money. We'll let it happen. And instead, he doesn't do that. He goes and tells everybody, the world, that America is going to take Gaza, which is like not the best thing for Israel. It's the best. It's not necessarily the best thing for America per se, but in the long run, he can at least manage what's going to happen there more. And so that's the obvious thing to do, is to say, if we're involved with this, if we're the reason this happened, because while I was asleep, Biden was awake, which is a weird thing to say, by the way. Like, well, I didn't do it. Biden was just going around dropping bombs all the time. That's weird to give Biden that much credit. But then, okay, so the deep state's been controlling and destroying Gaza for the sake of giving it over to Israel. Well, Netanyahu says he doesn't want there to be a state there anymore. There can't be a Gaza there anymore, Gaza state. He's completely against it. It's like Gaza state. Look what they did with it.
right,
so
partly his fault too. So
yeah,
that's
completely.
the issue. Not the Jewish people at large, but the whole decision. Like, this is the
CIA
thing.
financing
It becomes a question. Like, you have to, like, if somebody comes to me, like when I would have my thing at the farmers market for Kennedy, and somebody comes to me and they feel really strongly about the Gaza thing, I'm like, okay, would it be okay if I asked you a few questions? Like, do you feel really confident that you're very knowledgeable on Gaza and that whole and Israel-Palestine? And then it becomes like, how many elections has Palestine had? How many elections has Palestine had, Thomas?
One?
Yes. How many? Who won that election? It was Hamas.
Hamas, right?
Okay.
Overwhelmingly.
What year was that election?
Oh, now wasn't this this was closer to the early 2000s, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. 2006, right? How many points did Hamas win by?
Like 99%, right?
Like 3.
Oh, they only won by 3?
It was they barely won. They haven't had an election there ever since. Like this, like how many billions of dollars do the people who we're talking about the pre-times before October 7th, how much money do those people have between them? The 3 people who run Hamas, it's like $11 billion. Like, this is not like Avatar. And that's the messaging that I'm getting from the college campus protesters, is that this is just dances with wolves. It's the colonizers versus these people. And I don't think that Hamas has ever really had the best interests of the Palestinian people at heart. And
it's always run by Arafat. And when Arafat died in 2004, that's when all this started to go down. Because Arafat, whatever you want to say about him, he wasn't, a serial killing F-head, not like compared to everybody else.
Right. And so this was the October 7th was the fourth major attack like that. Like, so, the question is if we continue to do the cycle that we've been doing, because this has definitely been a cycle where, we have a ceasefire, and then the Hamas regroups, and then there's another attack, and then we go through this whole thing, and then Israel attacks, and it's awful. And then we have a ceasefire, and then they regroup, and they get everything together again. And then meanwhile, we're finding out that one of the things with USAID was going directly to Hamas, not the Palestinian people, not to help Palestine, but to just help the people who apparently don't have the best interests of Palestine. They're not even there. Like, they're just like the super rich people that don't seem like it's so messed up. And so, yeah, I don't know. What I would like to see is no more war in the Middle East. I would like to see dignity too. I would like to see these people have a dignified treatment, the Palestinian people. That's what I would like. Because the more ill-dignified you treat somebody, the more you get this energetic that we've seen. And so, like, I would like to see that end. And, people are going to talk beachfront property or whatever the hell, Trump, tower in Gaza. Like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. Like, I'm not jumping at that this is the answer, but at the same time, I don't know. Something's got to happen, because I don't like the cycle of war that we've been seeing, and I don't think even the protesters on behalf of of the Palestinians, like, why would you want that either? Like, is that the best for them? You'd say we're going to stand our ground to the point of just more deaths and more like everything. Like to what end exactly? Like,
well, I feel like we've proven that our two-party system in the States is superior to anyone else's. It's free of any sort of real conflict. So why don't we just leverage that into the Palestinian-Israel conflict, right? Every 4 years, everyone votes, the whole world gets the vote, and they get the vote on who they think should run the region. And then every 4 years, if they don't like the way that the Israelis have been running it, then we vote for the other side, back and forth. I can't think of a single problem that will come from that.
I like Sweden's system where they have like over 200 like official political parties, and of those they have like generally like 10 that it's anybody's game. You know, like the two-party system isn't even a two-party system anymore.
The problem with that, Germany does the same thing, and in Austria too. And what happens is then the overwhelming majority of the country will pick one party. Like the Freedom Party was elected in Austria, but there'll be a coalition of these people that are pretending to be different parties because they have different factions, but they're really just one uni-party. They're all an elite secret society at that point that just happen to be pretending to be in different parties, and their coalition is bigger. Their coalition is bigger than one of the parties, so it's impossible to have have changes in government, and it leads towards socialist nepotism, cronyism, and embezzlement, because you're like, well, if you embezzle and I embezzle, we should work together so that we can take as much of this government over as we can. Right.
We have a three-state solution.
The problem also with Sweden is, I just saw this, like 80% of refugees visit the countries on vacation in the countries where they've escaped and claimed asylum from.
80% of Sweden is forest, and
but the population, I mean,
right. But it's interesting because if you look at America, and you're like the way that we have our delegates and everything set up, and you're like, people feel that they don't have as much of a voice if you live in a place that's like got the big cities. You're like, well, we only have this amount of representatives, whereas like this other place that's more rural and spread out and has less of a population, like they have more of a say. But there's reasons for that, like I can appreciate that. It's just Sweden gets weird, like on so many different levels. Like also votes are decided not necessarily by the cities. There's decided by people as much as the people in the rural areas, which is most of Sweden, because that's gonna, even though it's 80% of the land. So how many people are living there? They have a different idea of the immigrants in Sweden than people who live in the cities proper.
Dude, this is unrelated but pretty hilarious trolling right here. How do I show this? So one of the other young Doge guys, not Big Bulls, has a Substack page where you can pay $1,000 a month or $10,000 a year, and there's nothing on it, because he knew that the journos trying to dig up dirt on him would pay to see if there's anything bad on there. And it's super funny to see he's made money off these people trying to get dirt on him. That's brilliant. See?
That's hilarious.
And he's probably getting money back from me because they probably have so much money from USAID still. They're like, all right, we'll just use a little bit of that money we still have.
There's something to
wasting money, yeah.
You can't uncover the scams unless if you know how those scams work. That's how that works. Like, you have to have a certain kind of mind. I think that's actually worked for Trump pretty well, because he's, as the type of business that he's done, also his troubleshooting, that he's had these failures and people will insult him for that. But at the same time, he's learned things along the way around how he's been screwed over, how even, he's been informed on how to screw other people over. Is this AI?
Yeah, it has to be, but it's pretty cute.
It has to be, right? Because they could scramble together to get this so quickly. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's adorable.
Right. I love that this is just the other equation of the Raelian symbol, right? Kanye contributes his half. Now they contribute their half, and you put
there you go.
And
integration. Totally. That's what I think the Jungian integration thing is.
I didn't know Gyllenhaal was Jewish. Did they just assume that?
Isn't everybody kind of Jewish deep down if you go to the Adam Eve thing? I don't know.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
God, there's a lot of it. Oh, that's adorable. I don't know. I think the funny thing is the people who are against it aren't the Jewish people I know. 'Cause most of them think it's hilarious. They're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, Kanye on the rails
I
right
like
now."
someone out there that's watching that and they're like, well, I'm anti-Kanye, but I'm also anti-AI, so I don't know how I feel right now.
Yeah, I posted one comment on somebody's thing and I ended up deleting it because I forgot that I actually know the person. But some lady like in Los Angeles who's, you know, in federal immigration, she posted this thing. And it was like all about how horrible what Kanye was and how it's like stands for symbols of oppression. I was like, you know what? I hate Nazis and I hate, you know, Kanye. I hate Ye. I don't like him. I've never been a fan. You know, I don't like his music even. You know, I think Runaway was kind of a cool video, but in general, I'm not like a fan. But like, I hate the sound of your nasally whining lady so much more than I hate Kanye. And I'm so much more worried about your woke fascism than I am about like ironic punk kids wearing symbols from like army surplus World War II or from, you know, horror movies. Basically, so
it's
more worried about her than him.
It's a nightmare. Like, and you know, this is the weird thing. It's like he is as far from old money as you could ever possibly be. This isn't even one generation. This is just him. Like, and he was put into this paradigm that he doesn't know who to trust anybody. He's like constantly going to be inevitably like paranoid about everybody that he's around. For the most part, he's in a really difficult spot. And I'm not just saying that.
Who are his peers? Who would be someone relatable to Kanye that has the amount of money and has lost the amount of money and has gone through the same sort of motions? There's a very small number of people on the entire planet that would even be in his peer group.
He's only surrounded by people who want to use him in whichever way that they can, either to destroy him or to suckle off what he's got. So it's just like it's got to be a total nightmare. So I try and look at it with that perspective. I'm like, what is that paradigm like, where everybody that you're relating to is wanting something from you, either to destroy you or take from you? You know, like
what? And I think in a way, like this is him poisoning that well so that all of the people that want to just leech off of him, like now you got to really want to be a leech, or like you're coming from a completely different angle because they don't even want to be associated with what would have normally been like a huge amount of success. Like just him saying your name would have, you know, sent you into stardom, but now it's like the opposite. Like anything that he touches almost immediately becomes infamous.
Mm-hmm. True. Charged in some way. Yeah. What are we looking at?
If you go to DOGE's Twitter, it's cool. They post information about what they're looking through all the time. So they went into Iron Mountain, which I think is in Utah, and federal employee. This is where they keep the records. Federal employee retirements are processed using paper by hand in an old limestone mine in Pennsylvania. Okay, this is the Pennsylvania one. Sorry, 700 plus mine workers operate 230 feet underground to process 10,000 applications per month, which are stored in manila envelopes and cardboard boxes. The retirement process takes multiple months. Well, guess what? That's clearly a racket. Like what? Of course. This is going to have to be digitized.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, Iron Mountain. And it's definitely a private group. Look at that. This is a private group that does this with that pyramid logo. It's a private group that's processing retirements for the government. I mean,
private with an asterisk at the end of it.
Yeah. Right. Beware of Doge.
Oh, interesting.
You muted yourself, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was like, oh my God, that's all I said. Beware of Doge. You know, I don't know. It's interesting to see that is going on. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is that I'm sure you guys have probably been experiencing the same. But when you go through all the things that's actually like being called out, that's actually it's too much. Like it's crazy. I can't even keep up with it all. You know, it's like every day there's more waste that's being pointed at, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a waste. That's a waste. That's a waste. But when I look at
the volume, no one's used to reporting this amount of volume. So now it's also getting dropped. Like normally, some kind of a motion like this would be milked for every single little tiny drop it could be politically, and it would almost be crazy. It would be the equivalent of if Andreas had like 50 YouTube videos stored up in his backlog, and he just drops them all at the exact same time on the same day. It's like, why would you do that? You're losing out on all this extra exposure and algorithm, and it's weird to see someone not milking it the same way that we've seen the rest of our lives.
no wonder the people that are just getting all their news from mainstream sources, like no wonder their relationship to the narrative of what's taking place, like they don't like they clearly, whether they get from the press secretary, they're just getting these like woke issues happening in these other countries having to do with specifically with USAID. And so, but it's not just that, it's all these different agencies of what's happening. So like, at which point is the media going to be forced to like cover any of the actual bigger things that are taking place right now? I think it's interesting that the press secretary only went with those. Like, why is that? Why didn't she go into that USAID as a CIA front? Is it just easier to just be like, look, these are things that are wasteful, and rather than just focusing on the actual corruption that's being exposed? Like, she didn't even address the specific corruption that's being exposed in terms of the financial side of all this. Like, why is that? I mean, maybe that's enough.
I think because the CIA, we took over the CIA now, right? Like, I don't know if you saw, the CIA just confirmed the new Michael Ellis as the new CIA deputy director. So,
right.
And so Michael Ellis is, let's see here, a Trump supporter. And then John Ratcliffe. I'm sorry, Ratcliffe is the Trump supporting director, right? He's Trump team.
Michael Ellis was also the editor for Superman.
Yeah, it's true. Which makes sense in a weird way. Nice sync. But yes, you got Ellis, and then you've got Michael Ellis, he was a forever Trumper, they called him, right? Early on. But he did work for Bush originally too. So you've got kind of some continuity with the Clinton Bush period anyway. There were people there in that time. Well, the CIA is totally cool now. Yeah, I don't know, bro. I'm just saying, bro. Like, it's like, at least they can't be like, oh, like, you gotta hate the CIA. You gotta rebrand it. You gotta rebrand it before
they're based now, bro.
Yeah, what do you want me to? They use Linux. What do you want?
It's not like it's old history of what happened with USAID, AID, and the CIA. And it's actually, I think it's chapter 36 and 37 of RFK's book on bioweapons that came out a couple years ago is all about USAID. And that's the first time I ever really, USAID ever caught my attention, was looking at that book and what is laid out there. It's the notes that are on those chapters, like, everything is so well cited that it feels like something that DOGE would have uncovered, like, but it's just, it's not debatable, like, the role that USAID has played in destabilizing other countries and all kinds of stuff. Like, I couldn't begin to cover it all, like, in a conversation, just because it's one of those things. Like, what am I going to do? Memorize all these points of corruption? Like, it goes on for days. It's insane.
Right.
So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out, man. Oh my God. Also, can you look up the lady that's they just put in charge of the JFK and Epstein files? Like, that, big things are about to happen there.
I don't know who that is. I haven't seen that. Is that this Paulina Luna?
Yeah, that's her.
Paulina Luna, yeah.
Yeah.
What's her story? What do you know about her declassification task force?
This is just today, before I got on the call, I was looking at what's happening there, and that's why I'm like, I was saying a few days ago that I have a really strong feeling the way things are headed is that we're actually going to get some exposure with Epstein specifically, and they just uncovered a bunch of new JFK files, which is weird to say because it's like, God, how long have those been?
Anna Paulina Luna is leading a task force to declassify 9/11 files, Jeffrey Epstein files, JFK files, RFK files, Martin Luther King files, COVID-19, UFOs, the works. Let's hear what she has to say. Hold on. Wait, that was the wrong page? Oh, I tricked myself. Oh, but like, just really quickly, that's my mood this week anyway, right? I think. I mean, hail Dark Taylor. What do you want me to say?
With the help of the White House announcement. With the stroke of a pen, he committed to declassifying the files concerning the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A decision not just monumental, but pivotal. It is with profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, and I've unidentified some.
You should have said JFK, RFK, and MLK. I mean, you missed your chance for a KKK joke, you know, for the Democrats.
Objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive on. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us. It is my solemn duty to begin mending this trust, to form a new relationship between the government and the governed. Let us embark on this journey together towards a government that does not serve, but one that enlightens. That does not just serve, but one that enlightens. Trust through transparency, that begins.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
right,
it's cool. We'll see what happens there. We'll see. But you know, yeah, if this is I expect something soon. I do. I don't, you know, but maybe I'm naive. I don't know.
Well, you got to figure out like what are the most boring days, and then those are the days to, you know, make executive orders released to make the news more interesting, because like, this is the content president. This is the content administration. This administration is producing content. That's all it is. Every day it's more content, which is I mean, the fact that we're talking about paper versus plastic straws,
right?
That mean, yeah, pennies. Like there must be more going on, and these are the stories that are they're circulating to distract from bigger, more interesting things. And when days seem kind of cold and boring, and the waves seem like they're, you know, the wind is soft, there's nothing, the ocean's placid, that's when you should expect the storm. I feel like, 'cause that's a good time to drop some more content that they're waiting on. It's like the Simpsons episodes that are shelved, you know?
Historically, this would be Christmas break, but we're so far away from that now, right? Christmas break is basically World War II intervention. It was Federal Reserve. It was the income tax. It was all of this happened over those periods in time.
Right.
Yeah, no, there's an auditing happening right now, and it's something that, as far as my understanding, had been that this is what Democrats wanted. So I'm like, they just don't want it to come from the Republicans. Why is that? Why does it matter? I don't even know.
Because if the Republicans do it, then there's nothing else to do, and the whole point is for it to not ever get done, so that you keep voting for them and giving them more money. That's like the whole point of having a fire. Like, hey, there's a fire. We need water bottles for the people. We need
right.
Well, why don't you put out the fire? Well, then there'd be no people to, you know, give water bottles to.
so Mitch McConnell and Dick Cheney and these people that are like, I mean, this is, you can see like the infighting or whatever you want to call it, like among the GOP right now. Like, you know, it's so strange. It's like, so is Mitch McConnell siding with the Democrats because Trump is really that bad, or is he siding with the Democrats because the Democrats are that bad? You know what I mean?
They're going to pay him.
From their, like, from a Democrat perspective, I'm saying, like, if you're going to look at Mitch McConnell, this is somebody who you've demonized to no end, and in most cases rightfully so, right? And then he's going to side with you guys, like, and you're saying that that's a good thing. Maybe that should be a point of reflection on where you've drifted, rather than to say, no, he really just You know, I mean, you remember when like the impeachment hearings were happening, and Mitch McConnell had these really stern, intense things to say about Trump, but then he voted against the impeachment. And I used to debate people around, like, I'm talking 2016 times with Bernie Sanders around his voting record. And I would like try and give excuses sometimes for things like, you're like, no, really, like people can talk, but really it's actions speak louder than, like, what are their actions, you know? So I don't know. I think the same thing works kind of in reverse. If somebody has, you know, they talk really badly, but then they have good actions, you know, or whatever, you know, I don't know.
Freaking Bernie. Oh my God.
Bernie.
More and more money coming out about Bernie Sanders. He's scum of the earth. Okay, so what have you got going on this week, David? Do you want to walk?
Oh, I don't have any new sync films or anything, but I would always recommend people look at my highlights, you know, and just check out what I got there. I think I have at this point, I think I have 200 on Twitter and well over 200 on the website. But
make sure you guys are also following his X page, because he's getting some pretty fun stuff on X. If you notice, we talked about Tom Green's Tartaria video last time, and so that's pretty exciting. If you go to highlights here, you can see his sync films: Midsummer with Tool, Holy Mountain with Jodorowsky. Jodorowsky's Holy Mountain with Marilyn Manson, The Substance with Katy Perry's 143. He said like a bicentennial, almost as many sync films as there are years to the wonderful United States. Oh, ABBA, The Other Side of Paradise, Foxtrot. This is pretty good. I would recommend that one, actually.
Yeah, and you know, I want to be selling art soon too. So Thomas, we need to continue that conversation and make something happen there. On my website, for the syncbook.com, on my page with my films, in that top paragraph, there is actually a link to my art. And if you click on any of the images that you're interested in, it'll take you to my work website. It runs really slow. It's, you know, it's whatever, but it's functional. And
the page.
Are we having a problem with the Syncbook website?
We're having a problem with the videos page. The videos
Oh,
page.
weird. Well, scroll down and try it from the other one, from mine.
Oh, because he put up a new video and he accidentally erased the HTML page. Oh, well.
Oh, is that what happened? So
yeah,
okay.
Hopefully you can fix that. But
there we go. We can go through if you just scroll down to go to the other my larger link there. It just seems to work. And so yeah, the top paragraph here has at the top of the page where it says art, and it's a little more boldened. If you go to this page, if you click on any of these images, it'll actually take you to my work website. It takes a while to load, but they're all there, and I can do G-Clay prints. Also, you know, if you send me a email or whatever, and you're interested in a G-Clay print, you know, I'm pretty reasonable with prices. So, you know, we can even discuss what it is that you want, and if you want it done some kind of special way or something. I have all kinds of options. So I work in a print store slash you know, framing and canvases and all this kind of stuff. So
highly recommend these, because you're crazy handmade pieces of art that are, you know, just insane work goes into these. It's pretty cool what you're doing, making these things.
The internet doesn't really do them justice. Like if you see a G-Clay print of one of these in person when they're all blown up, it's pretty amazing. So I'm going to try and figure out ways to get that more you know, communicable to people, because like as it stands, like I can't actually upload like the high-res version of these images, because then I don't have a product. So that's what exists online. It's an indication of what it is that they are. But yeah, they're pretty elaborate. But yeah,
dude.
Anyway.
And also, there's apparently a new Syncbook news. No, this is from 4 years ago. Why is this?
The reason is it's back is because it's so insanely syncy to the election that just happened.
Really?
So like, yeah. So he uploaded this I think just before the election, because of what he goes into about. Remember that wrestler who was like
Kamala Harris, the wrestler, yeah, who died.
Yeah,
right before she ran. Yeah.
Right, all of that stuff. So he's just Alan Abadessa Green is just sharing his old sync video because it's ridiculously applicable to today.
Highly recommend you guys watch this. This is, you know, I do like all of Alan Green's work. And
he's brilliant.
Pretty interesting stuff. Even if it's 4 years old, it predicts the future, so it's predicting what's going on right now. So that's pretty cool. And then yeah, Paranoid American. Thomas, what's going on with your comics right now? What do you want me to show them? The Satanic Panic, and then maybe the video game?
Yeah, well, the game is probably going to be the next one to launch because it had the most people that signed up for it. So you can go to satanicpanicgame.com, which is the an interactive visual novel. It's got like 8+ hours of this interactive sort of murder mystery that takes place in the 1930s. And depending on how well this one does, the very next one will probably be the Satanic Panic comic. So I would say get into both of these. And I also got some other cool news is that my YouTube members and my Patreon members have gotten up enough. I got a whole bunch of people that came on this month, so I redid my whole credit screen. So now everyone that's a Patreon and everyone that's a YouTube member, even if you got gifted a membership and you snagged it up, shout out to 5-Leaf Clover for gifting so many memberships. But now you're gonna all be in the credits of all my new videos too. So I've got one that I'm rendering out as we're talking now, but the Occult Book Club is back. I can't remember the last time I did an episode was on the Box Saga, which I didn't want to leave it off there. It's such a long time to let everyone kind of digest that. But now we just started a brand new one, and the credit screen on that's going to have all YouTube members and all the Patreons and stuff. So shout out to everyone that signed up on those.
Didn't you say, Thomas, that you're going to have some like long, like what's happening? You're doing a telethon? What's happening? I forget what you're.
Yeah. So next month, I think the 13th or the 14th. But basically, it's going to be episode 100 of the Paranoid American podcast. So I'm going to do a 6-hour live stream, I think. Everyone's invited to come on and hang out. There's going to be a little bit of a structure. I think I'm going to go over my top 10 or top 20 favorite conspiracy theories ever and give each of them 15 or 20 minutes so people can like pop in and pop out and give their thoughts on it. But yeah, stay tuned for that. It'll be 6 hours live. It'll pretty much be the entire afternoon.
Nice. Sounds good. Epic. Okay. So yeah, everybody go to paranoidamerican.com so you can check out these Kickstarters and get on the links. And then, I'm going to try that song one more time because I think we got it this time. Let's try here. Okay.
They dropped the bomb, cleared up the land, said it was freedom, said it was planned. Now there's neon lights where homes used to stand. The past is gone, don't you understand? They blew up Gaza, built a shopping mall. No more Palestine, just casinos real tall. Came in with a wrecking ball. They blew up Gaza.
I like it.
For a shopping mall.
It's a play on Tear Down Paradise, put up a parking lot, huh? Which is
that was my goal. I wanted something kind of like that. Yeah. Well, all right. We'll see you guys soon. Love you very much.
A paradise lost, but profits are made. They blew up Gaza, built a shop.